Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the events of our upcoming chapter 1055, and now that we have the completely, we'll have a little bit better of an idea of what's going to happen in this chapter. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've been around for a bunch of episodes, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing and leaving us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content, and if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing the video or the channel with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. We see Momonosuke fighting Admiral Ryokugyu, and it looks like Momo is not doing so well against the Admiral, but he insists on fighting. But again, seeing that Momo is at this disadvantage, Yamato is willing to help during the fight, but again, Momonosuke denies it. Momo insists that Yamato stay out of this fight, as he wanted to defend Wano alone. And seeing that Momonosuke was struggling, Ryzo uses a technique called Ninpo Maki Maki no Jutsu, shooting a fire attack at Ryokugyu. The Admiral pretends as if he's being affected by Ryzo's attack, but he's only joking. So then Ryokugyu uses his technique called the Bakarin and frees himself from the flames that Ryzo had thrown at his body. Ryokugyu goes on to further chastise and ask Ryzo if he really thought that he would be able to defeat a Marine Admiral, even though he knows how inferior he is. And then he stabs Ryzo's body with one of his branches and begins to absorb the nutrients from his body to strengthen himself. Kawamatsu next jumps into the fray, but no matter how many branches or roots he cuts down, they just don't stop growing. And after both of their attempts fail to save their companion, Ryokugyu uses his branches to capture Denjiro, Kawamatsu, and Nekomamushi. And this is how it comes down to Yamato, because he's the only one in this fight, because the scabbards have been taken up, Momo's trapped, and everyone is being held down by the Admiral's branches. But since Momonosuke told Yamato not to interfere, Yamato just watches and just wondering what they can do, knowing that they have to abide by Momo's wishes. The scene then switches to Kozuki Sukiyaki's secret room, and we see that a secret passage leading to a long staircase has been opened in the floor. Now Sukiyaki and Robin are walking down the staircase, and they've been joined by Law. Robin asks Law if he could follow her by her smell, but Law replies that he's not a hyena or some kind of dog, and doesn't have the ability to do that. Law then explains that he couldn't find Robin during the party where most of the Straw Hats were, so he went looking for her. Sukiyaki says that he had never told Kaido or Orochi about this passage, but since one of the very important crew members of the Beast Pirates is a fishman, it didn't take them long to find the poneglyph. Of course, Sukiyaki is referring to Jack, who is a fishman who is part of Kaido's crew, and because of his ability as a fishman, this allowed Jack to find or at least sense the poneglyph, and in this way, Kaido knew of that location. Robin then asks why a fishman would be able to find it, since in theory the road poneglyph would be in a secret location in which no one but Sukiyaki knew of its location. But then Sukiyaki tells her that they'd better see for themselves. Sukiyaki begins to tell the story of the land of Wano, but Robin interrupts him as she sees a light coming out of the hole in the passage, and Robin asks what it is, but Sukiyaki tells her that she can go and see what it is. It's a glass block looking out into the water, because they were now at the bottom of the sea. Robin crawls through the hole, and Law teleports next to her, and they both look through the glass to see the ruins of an ancient city under the water. A large city completely submerged under Wano. Sukiyaki tells them that these are the ruins of the other land of Wano that existed about 800 years ago. And they're not surrounded by seawater. The ruins have been preserved in really good condition. So next, Sukiyaki then goes on to explain what happened to the ancient land of Wano. We're next shown panels about what happened long ago, and it seems that Wano country was in fact 3 times larger than the present Wano, and it was located at the base of a mount called Mount Fuji, at about the same level of the sea. But then at one point in history, great walls are erected to surround the island, and the country is locked up by some unknown enemies or person, and then rainwater begins to accumulate and flooded the entire country. After this, once the rainwater reached the highest part of the walls, it started to fall over and created great waterfalls. The very waterfalls the pirates had to climb in order to get into Wano. People ended up having to abandon the original Wano country and built a new country around the mountain of Mount Fuji, which is what currently Wano country is. So Wano is now a small country compared to what it was of old. Following the flashback, we see the group then reach the end of the stairs, and Sukiyaki opens a secret door that leads to a large room where the road poneglyph is. And Robin says that if they could find just one more, they could then travel to Laugh-Tale. Sukiyaki says that this room is on a high platform inside the cave at the base of Mount Fuji, and right now, an ancient weapon capable of causing great mass destruction known as Pluton was right below. However, Sukiyaki had never seen this weapon in person, so he can't show Robin and Law where it is. So Robin is going to have to look for the ancient weapon on their own in the middle of this great ruined country. Sukiyaki next reveals that to bring Pluton to the surface, the walls of the land of Wano must be torn down to release this ancient ancient weapon, which means that only after Momonosuke allows the borders of Wano to be opened would it even be possible to see the ancient weapon. Robin then wonders why Kazuki Oden wanted to do something like that, and Sukiyaki says that he'd told them everything that was passed down from the Shogun's clan, but then goes on to say that he didn't know what Kazuki Oden had discovered during his journey with Whitebeard and Roger. But when he's just about to finish his sentence, the scene changes. Back outside the flower capital, we see Ryokugyu has since arrested the Red Scabbards and Yamato and tells them that they can do nothing against Mother Nature, demonstrating his great power in the face of these enemies who have dared to stand in his way. Ryokugyu says that if Kaido had stayed in the country, he wouldn't have dared to come, but as Kaido's reign was over, this allowed him to come into Wano without really fearing anything, because what kept enemies out of Wano country was the great beast Kaido. Ryokugyu goes on to say that his only goal in this moment was to rip Luffy's head off so that he could then leave Wano, but obviously no one from Wano would let this happen. Yamato tells Momonosuke that they should ask Luffy and the others for help since they wouldn't lose against this guy, because he's a very powerful pirate capable of even facing Kaido and Big Mom. Momonosuke, crying, says he doesn't need Luffy or Yamato's help, and then he asks Yamato not to offer his help anymore because he wants to fight the Admiral alone so that he can be able to defend Wano without any help. Momonosuke tells Yamato that she was locked up in Onigashima all her life because of her father Kaido's choices, but now Yamato would be free to live their life, and it's for this reason that Momonosuke wishes Yamato would leave. Momo goes on to say that he's not always going to be able to count on Luffy and Zoro and the others to help him, so Momonosuke would have to face this enemy even though he knows there's a huge difference in their powers. Momonosuke says that they have to be able to defend against all enemies to keep the people of Wano safe and not depend on people from the outside of Wano to help them, so they need to be strong to defeat any enemy that could ever wish to threaten Wano. Ryokugyu mocks Momonosuke's childish attitude and says that he never thought a dragon could be so embarrassing, and in a moment of desperation, Momonosuke manages to shoot a Boro breath that passes through Ryokugyu's tree body. Due to the damage, the Red Scabbards and Yamato are able to break free, and Ryokugyu looks at Momonosuke. He can't believe what has just happened, and even Yamato can't believe that Momonosuke has finally mastered this dragon's power. However, Denjiro says that Momonosuke is not aiming very well, so Momo uses another Boro breath on Ryokugyu and burns his body. However, a small plant grows behind Ryokugyu's burned body, and Ryokugyu grows right back together. Ryokugyu transforms again to continue the battle, and after recovering, the Admiral says that, well, if this is the game that Momonosuke wants to play, then it's okay, soon after calling him Kaido's project, implying that Momonosuke is similar to Kaido, but much more inferior. Suddenly, black lightning can be seen in the distance, and Ryokugyu feels that something is paralyzing, and he cries out in pain and gets very scared and wonders what that Conqueror's Haki was, wondering again who could be using this amazing technique. Ryokugyu then discerns that it is in fact Shanks who is using his Conqueror's Haki very close to Wano, which makes him very scared, knowing that Shanks would be able to use his Conqueror's Haki against Ryokugyu, and he even just at this great distance starts to fear what Shanks intended to do. We then see Shanks is saying that he wouldn't call him despicable, but a marine looking at all those new leaves that have just changed the history of pirates is something in very poor taste. As Shanks says this, we get to see some memories of him with Luffy when Luffy cuts his face, Momonosuke as a child together with Oden, Hiyori at her birth, and we also see a silhouette that seems to be Uta, the character from the Shanks Red movie who is allegedly to be Shanks' daughter. We next see a close-up of Shanks' face, and he is enraged by the Admiral's actions, and he asks him if he is afraid of the coming of the new generation. So Ryokugyu then returns to his normal form and says he has no intention of fighting Shanks and his crew, at least not now, so he then decides to leave. We then see Yamato and Momonosuke and the Red Scabbards all celebrating, and Momonosuke is crying with joy because a great enemy had just left Wano, thus avoiding a conflict that could have been disastrous for Wano just as it's starting to rebuild. So in the final scenes, we go back to the flower capital, and we see Brook, Usopp, Chopper, and Frankie are still at the party with Hiyori and Toko, but outside the city, we see that Luffy is sitting on the ground with Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei, and they start commenting on the Admiral's confrontation against the swordsmen of Wano. Luffy says that Ryokugyu left, while Sanji says that apparently they didn't need his help. Zoro says that Momonosuke was impressive, and Jinbei says that haki was impressive. Luffy ends the conversation by saying that it was really something amazing and somehow familiar, and a face had appeared in his mind, but he couldn't identify that Shanks was the one in fact using this haki. So at the end of the chapter, we see Luffy smiling, finally, as the ship of the red-haired pirates pulls away from the sea of Wano country. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our leaks for chapter 1055. So for now, we'd love to know what you think about it. What do you think is this new ability that Shanks is showing us? And is this kind of a little foreshadowing that Luffy still has the ability to grow his haki? Also, why do you think Shanks is just this powerhouse that not even this really seemingly capable admiral wouldn't take on? And also, what do you think it really means for us to finally find out where Pluton is, and what do you think Pluton is? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Well, my friends, as we wrap up the video, I want to thank you all so much for watching all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like or hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.